Ew, that was so gross. I do not like playing teams like Vandy for that reason. They just don't give up and they keep fighting back. However, my Texas Longhorns found a way to win the game. Hook 'em. Shout out to Texas for winning that game. And the funny thing is, when I was watching that game, there's a couple of things I call it in my preview that showed up in this game. I said, we're going to win this game by passing the ball. Check. Our offensive line has to stand up and block somebody. Check. And we had to limit Vanderbilt's running ability. And we did that. Vanderbilt only had 58 rushing yards. And you can tell at the beginning of that game, it took them a minute to figure out, like, what are we going to do? How are we going to get through this? How are we going to figure this out? Texas took care of business at home. Was it pretty the entire game? Absolutely not. But I saw some amazing things today from this Texas Longhorn football team, and they looked how I thought they would look as we were heading into the season, but it finally came together today. They looked great on offense. They looked great on defense. Special teams, you know, the field goal kicker didn't have one of his best days, but we found ways to win the game. And sometimes the hardest part about football is finding ways to win football games. And today we found ways to win football games. So shout out to Texas for winning this game. Shout out to them holding at the very end of this game because they could have given up. When Vanderbilt started coming back, they could have given up and they did not. Let me just take a second here and applaud Arch Manning for being phenomenal today. Arch Manning played one of the best games that I have seen Arch Manning play, and he just keeps getting better. He is doing every single thing he is supposed to do. He is seeing the field. He is seeing the receivers. Now, are some of his throws still a little high, a little lows? He's still missing some people. Yes, he's still missing some people. But overall, he looks good. He looks like he's in command of this offense. The other thing I noticed today, and maybe it was by design because he's coming off of having a concussion, is that there was no design run plays for Arch Manning. I don't think there ever should be any design plays for Arch Manning. I've said this in multiple videos at this point. I think Arch Manning is at his best when he is running our offense. He doesn't need to be a part of our offense. He needs to run our offense. And whenever he sees an opening, fine, he can take off. But I don't think we need to start calling design run plays for Arch Manning because I think we're talented enough to not have to. So that is something that I really appreciated seeing Arch Manning do today. The other thing that I think is absolutely pathetic is the refereeing in the SEC. They were absolutely trash today. And I know a lot of people say you can't lose games because of the refs. You absolutely can lose games because of the refs. And let me tell you how. The refs impact the momentum of the game. The refs took away Texas momentum in that game. They started calling all kinds of things. They gave Pavia a 15-yard penalty when he was basically dragging the Texas defender out of bounds. They started calling, false starts and offsides and this and that, the 2-point conversion. Refs can absolutely be the reason why teams lose football games because the refs are dictating the momentum. And if you were watching that Texas game today, you started to see the refs come in and make plays and throw flags and make plays is a great way to say that. Throw flags and do things, and it knocks off rhythm. And so when you knock off a team's rhythm and they're at home and they're rolling great, you're stopping them and you're giving the other team time to kind of recover and regroup. The refs today stopped the momentum of this Texas football team. Shame on them. Shame on the SEC. Nothing is going to happen to them because nothing ever happens to refs. But they were piss poor. They were absolutely pathetic. And if any of us went to any of our jobs and we put out the type of effort that those refs put out today, we would probably be fired. So shame on the SEC for this officiating because they're terrible. They're absolutely terrible. Now, let me talk about this Texas defense. Hi, if you haven't already, don't forget to hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Leave me a comment in the comment section below and I'll let you get back to your video. The Texas defense for me is a mixed bag. So I think for 3.5 quarters, this Texas defense was phenomenal. I think they were fantastic. And then I don't know what happened. And I know injuries started to pile up. I know we started to get thin at corner. I know a lot of things started to happen and it kind of started to unravel and go downhill fast. My big thing with that, though, is in my preview, I kept saying, I need this defense to just hold on. I need them to hold on. I need them to get their legs. I need them to figure it out. At the end of games is when that usually starts to show, and you saw that. They came out firing. They're at home. I understood that. However, as you started to see, as the game kind of wore down, so did they. And I think they wore down because at this point, they've been in so many games as of late that are very high strung and high tempo. Florida, very high strung. Oklahoma, very high strung. Kentucky, you have to hold because your offense can't do anything. Mississippi State, you're on a comeback. You have to lock in. Vanderbilt, 5 weeks in a row, this defense has has been put to the test over and over and over, and they have been the most consistent for us. And so I knew at some point they were going to kind of falter, and I knew at some point they were going to have to get their bearings. They played a ton of snaps, but they held. Kind of. They held kind of. Kind of. Like they almost gave the game away, but they kind of, whatever. We won the game. What I saw from the defense doesn't necessarily worry me because I was expecting it to happen at some point. I was just glad it happened in the fourth quarter and not the first quarter because it was starting to look a little shaky there. And shout out to Colin Simmons. Shout out to Anthony Hill Jr. Shout out to Trey Moore, Ethan Burke. That entire front seven for this Texas Longhorns team was phenomenal today. I know Vanderbilt had 31 points. I know this defense on paper gave up 31 points. I'm very aware of that. But the 31 points that were given up, that was not because our front seven wasn't playing good. That's a secondary issue. We need to fix that secondary issue because I always say, good football teams know how to put teams away. Good football teams don't let teams linger. Good football teams win games and you move on. Good football teams get up on teams and they're able to figure out ways to not give that lead up and to not make the game get tight. And so we have to figure out how to do that. But some point, what happens when you're playing all of these snaps in games? All of these snaps are going to show up. They are human bodies. Okay, they get tired. And so you could kind of see that at the end of that game. The front seven, though, didn't get tired. And so shout out to them for that. The other thing that was kind of troubling for me is watching how many people were going down with injuries on our offense. So that is something we've got to figure out because we're going to need everybody as we go to make this push. What Texas is trying to do is going to be the most hardest path that everyone's going to think there's no way we're going to be able to pull this off, but we're on a bye week. And so we have a week to take a deep breath and to relax and to, in a lot of ways, just kind of let our guards down and let things come to us because when we come back off of bye week, we're headed to Georgia. And so Georgia is our last regular season road game, and it's a massive game. And if Texas is able to find a way to beat Georgia, this season is going to be so interesting. And so for me, where do I see Texas right now? I feel like they're kind of right where I needed them to be. That loss to Florida still hurts, and it's still awful that we have that loss on our record. But from that loss, I feel like we've almost spurned a new team, or we've almost created like a different team, a battle-tested team, a team that is ready to go out there and to do what they need to do because we can't afford any more losses. And when you can't afford any more losses, you have to figure out ways to get in there, to grind it out, to keep getting better. And that is what I expect Texas to do. I expect the Texas team that I saw for the first 2 quarters, third quarter, that's the Texas team that I expect to see. Now, is it always going to be perfect? No, it's not always going to be perfect. But what I need it to be is consistent. And so like I always say, if I'm going to take the best parts of us and throw those out, and I'm going to take the worst parts of us and throw that out, what I have in the middle is how I'm evaluating my team. And right now, the middle looks pretty good for Texas because I think the middle makes us better than a lot of teams right now. And so we just need to keep fighting. We need to keep clawing. We need to keep doing all those things. But we're in a bye week. So now we can at least take a deep breath. We can relax. And I don't know, did you all see Arch Manning today? I'm pretty sure I'm not going to see anything negative about Arch Manning for the next 2 weeks because he looks great. He looks fantastic. He's reading the defenses. He's making plays. He's making throws. He looks solid in the pocket. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. Is he ever going to be perfect? Also, absolutely not. But he looks fantastic. Before I end this video, I just want to say, I cannot stand the refs. And I think it's absolutely pathetic that nothing ever happens to them and they just get to be terrible. And when the commentators are questioning calls over and over and over, when you know they are getting paid by ESPN, who has a contract with the SEC, you know there is a problem. This refereeing is bad. They have to get their shit together. It's bad. It is absolutely terrible. It is unacceptable to have them on this field and be doing this and disrupting these games and impacting the momentum. I'm sick of it. I don't think the SEC cares, but it's pathetic, and I wanted to call it out. However, Texas is on a bye week, and I'm proud of them heading into this bye week. All of their goals, they still have out in front of them. And Arch Manning stepping up, looking great. I hope the team gets healthy. I hope the team is ready to go. I hope they have a great bye week because, hey, next on the schedule is Georgia. I can't wait to see them play in Georgia. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hook 'em. I'll see you in my next video.